Every problem feels louder when your mind isn't calm. You wake up tired, your head's already racing. Maybe you're worried about money, someone you love, your future, or just trying to keep it together. You've tried to fix things. You've read books, watched videos, told yourself to stay positive, but inside, it still feels heavy. This isn't another talk about how to hustle harder. This is about something deeper. This is about solving problems at the root, not just on paper, but in your mind. The truth is, a peaceful mind can solve almost anything. And that's what this video is about. Not just getting through the day, but actually feeling better while you live it. You don't need more pressure. You need peace. You need clarity. You need a formula that works in real life. And that's what you'll learn here. Stay with this. It might just change how you handle everything. Chapter 1. Understand your mind before trying to change your life. You know, most people wake up every day trying to change everything around them. Their job, their partner, their routine, their life. Yet they never stop to understand the one thing controlling it all, and their own mind. You can't change your life until you understand the machine that's running it. Your mind decides how you see the world, how you feel about it, and how you respond to it. It's not life that creates stress, it's how you think about life that does. If you want to solve any problem, you must start at the source, the thoughts that shape your reality. Everything begins there. The way you talk to yourself, the beliefs you repeat, the stories you tell in silence, that's where the real war is fought. Before you try to fix your life, pause and get to know the voice inside your head. What does it say when things go wrong? What does it whisper when you fail? What does it shout when you feel lost? Understanding your mind is like turning on the lights in a dark room. You begin to see what's been tripping you up all along. Every emotion you feel, every reaction you have, every habit you've built, they're all signals. They tell you how your mind has been trained. If you get angry too quickly, if you worry about what people think, if you quit before you finish, these are not flaws, they are messages. They are clues about how your mind works. When you pay attention, you stop living on autopilot. You begin to respond instead of react. You start seeing patterns instead of chaos. The truth is, most people don't think they react. Something happens, and they respond with emotion before they ever take a breath. They've trained their mind to defend, not to understand. And here's what happens. When the mind doesn't understand itself, it becomes its own enemy. You start fighting battles that don't even exist. You imagine outcomes that never happen. You rehearse pain that hasn't even arrived. That's how we turn small problems into heavy burdens, through misunderstanding how our own mind operates. Your mind is not against you. It's simply untrained. It's been shaped by years of repetition, fear, and habit. If you've spent 10 years worrying, your mind has become a master at worry. If you've spent 5 years doubting yourself, your mind has perfected that pattern. But the beautiful truth is, anything learned can be unlearned. Anything practiced can be replaced with something new. You can recondition your mind to think in a way that serves your peace instead of destroying it. Understanding your mind begins with observation. Watch your thoughts without trying to change them. When you feel anxious, don't rush to escape it. Watch what your mind says. When you feel angry, notice what thought came before it. You'll start to see the script that runs your life. Most of the time, it's the same few fears repeated in different situations. What if I fail? What will people think? I'm not enough. These are old stories. They started years ago. You didn't choose them consciously, but now they run your life unconsciously. Awareness is the first step to freedom. There's something powerful that happens when you realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who hears them. Once you see that, you can stop identifying with every thought that crosses your mind. You can question them, you can challenge them, you can ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? That simple question can change the direction of your life. Because every decision begins with a thought, and every feeling is fueled by one. When people ask me how to change their life, I tell them, don't start with your job. Don't start with your relationship. Start with your thinking. Because your thinking is what built everything you see. If you think you can't, your actions will prove you right. If you think you're unlucky, you'll see evidence of it everywhere. If you think people are against you, you'll interpret everything through that lens. The mind doesn't show you reality. It shows you what you believe about reality, and that belief becomes your world. So, before you try to fix the world around you, fix the lens you're looking through. A peaceful mind doesn't come from a perfect life. It comes from a mind that understands itself. You can't stop problems from appearing, but you can stop your mind from turning them into storms. Once you understand your mind, you'll stop blaming life for how you feel. You'll stop expecting others to make you calm. You'll see that peace is something you build inside thought by thought, day by day. Now, how do you understand your mind in practice? You begin with honesty. Ask yourself, what do I really believe about myself? Not what you tell people, what you actually believe when you're alone. Do you believe you're capable? Do you believe you're worthy of good things? Do you believe that problems are challenges or punishments? Because your beliefs shape your responses, and your responses create your results. Understanding your mind means confronting beliefs that are outdated, beliefs that no longer fit who you want to become. You must also understand your emotional patterns. Notice what triggers you the most. Is it rejection, control, uncertainty? These triggers reveal what your mind is still trying to protect. The moment you see your reaction clearly, you create space, and in that space, you can choose differently. You no longer get pulled into the storm, you stay grounded. That's how you start solving problems with calm instead of chaos. Many people think control means power, but the real power is understanding. You can't control every event, but you can control the meaning your mind gives it. One person loses their job and falls apart. Another loses their job and sees it as a chance to grow. The event is the same. The difference is how the mind interprets it. Understanding your mind gives you that power, the power to create meaning that strengthens you, not breaks you. And remember, your mind listens to what you repeat. If you keep saying, "I can't handle this," your mind will agree and make you feel weaker. If you say, "I'm learning to stay calm," your mind will start creating that calm. Words are instructions to the brain. Be careful what you tell yourself because your mind obeys. Speak peace often enough, and soon your mind will believe it. You can't build a peaceful mind through force. You build it through patience. Every day, choose to observe instead of react. Choose to understand instead of attack. Choose to respond instead of panic. Over time, your mind begins to trust you. It stops fighting. It starts listening. That's when you gain real control, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that leads with awareness. The most successful people aren't those who never feel doubt. They're those who recognize it and move anyway. They've learned to separate emotion from identity. They know that feeling uncertain doesn't mean they are weak. It means they are human. That's understanding. It's knowing your emotional waves without letting them drown you. When you understand your mind, problems stop feeling personal. You start to see them as feedback. Life says, here's a weakness to strengthen, here's a lesson to learn. And instead of complaining, you listen, you begin to grow. That's when your peace becomes unshakable, not because life got easier, but because your mind got wiser. You owe it to yourself to understand why you think the way you do. Study yourself the way you study your goals. Pay attention to how your mind reacts to pressure, to failure, to praise. Every reaction tells you where you still need peace. And when you know that, you can work on it directly. You can journal your thoughts at the end of each day. Write down what made you stressed, what made you calm, what made you feel proud. You'll start to notice the same patterns appear again and again. Awareness grows through repetition. The more you observe, the clearer your mind becomes. Understanding your mind is not about being positive all the time. It's about being aware all the time. Sometimes awareness means facing truth that hurts. You might realize that your anger is just fear in disguise. You might see that your sadness comes from expectations you never questioned. That's good. That's progress, because you can't change what you don't understand. If you want peace, you must be brave enough to look inward. Most people keep running from themselves, hoping something external will make it better. A new job, a new partner, a new start. But everywhere you go, your mind goes too. If it's not peaceful inside, the world will never feel peaceful outside. You must understand what's happening inside before anything outside will make sense. So start small. Each morning, check in with your thoughts. Ask yourself, what am I focusing on today? When you feel overwhelmed, ask, what story is my mind telling me right now? When you feel doubt, ask, is this truth or fear speaking? These simple questions build awareness, and awareness builds peace. In time, you'll notice something incredible. The problems that used to shake you no longer control you. You still feel them, but you don't live in them. You've built distance, the kind that gives clarity. You'll start making decisions with calm instead of panic. You'll stop rushing for answers and start trusting your process. That's the gift of understanding your mind. You don't escape problems, you outgrow them. You don't erase emotions, you learn from them. You don't control everything, you control your response. And in that space between thought and reaction, peace lives. So before you try to change your habits, your work, or your world, stop and study the one thing directing it all, your mind. Learn how it thinks, why it fears, and what it believes. Because once you understand your mind, every problem becomes smaller, every emotion becomes clearer, and every day becomes lighter. The peaceful mind isn't a mystery. It's a skill, and it begins with understanding yourself completely. Chapter 2. Calm your inner noise so solutions can finally appear. Every problem feels 10 times bigger when your mind is loud. You know that restless noise inside, the endless thinking, the replaying of mistakes, the worry about what might go wrong. That's the real storm. It's not the situation itself that breaks you down. It's the way your mind keeps spinning without pause. The moment you quiet that noise, clarity walks in. Calm is not the absence of problems. It's the ability to think clearly in the middle of them. You can't see your reflection in a shaking mirror, and you can't find answers in a shaking mind. When you're stressed, your brain floods with emotion, your focus narrows, and everything feels urgent. That's when you make decisions that don't serve you, reacting instead of responding, escaping instead of understanding. To solve any problem, you first need to calm your inner world. A peaceful mind makes strong decisions. A noisy mind only repeats old mistakes. When your mind is loud, it tells you that you must act immediately. It convinces you that doing something, anything, is better than being still. But that's not true. Most problems don't need a fast answer, they need a calm one. The fastest way to clarity is not movement, it's stillness. You can't outrun confusion, you have to outlast it with patience. The person who stays calm when others panic always sees what others miss. Calming your inner noise begins with awareness. Notice how your mind behaves under stress. When something unexpected happens, where does your attention go? Do you start imagining the worst? Do you relive old failures? Do you criticize yourself instantly? That's the noise that blocks insight. The mind gets trapped in loops of fear and judgment. Understanding that loop is the first step toward quieting it. Sometimes silence feels uncomfortable because it forces you to hear your real thoughts. You start noticing how often you speak harshly to yourself. You realize how much of your energy goes to what you can't control. This awareness can feel heavy at first, but it's freeing. Once you see how much of your suffering comes from your own thoughts, you gain the power to change them. Calm isn't given to you, it's built through gentle attention to what's happening inside. When your thoughts start to race, don't fight them. Fighting noise creates more noise. Instead, pause and observe. Take a slow breath. Ask yourself, what's really happening right now? Your body will follow your breath. Your mind will follow your focus. Breathing is your anchor. Each slow exhale tells your nervous system that you are safe, that it can stop running. Most of your tension comes from forgetting that you're okay in this moment. You don't have to clear your mind completely. You just have to stop feeding every thought. Not every idea deserves your attention. When your mind starts listing every possible outcome, you can simply say, "Not now." You can train your focus like a muscle. Each time you bring it back to the present moment, you strengthen it. Over time, your mind learns that peace is not found in control, it's found in presence. A calm mind doesn't mean an empty mind. It means a focused one. It means you've chosen what to think about instead of being pulled around by every random thought. You can't stop thoughts from appearing, but you can decide which ones to entertain. Imagine you're sitting in a waiting room. Thoughts come and go like people entering and leaving. You don't need to talk to everyone who walks in. Some thoughts don't deserve a seat. Distraction feeds inner noise. Most people wake up and immediately check their phone. They scroll through other people's opinions, successes, and complaints before they've even met their own day. That's how noise begins. The mind becomes a room filled with voices that don't belong there. You can't find peace in a crowd. You have to choose silence. Start your day in quiet. Before you let the world in, listen to yourself first. You can create calm by simplifying what you consume. Too much information creates confusion. Too much comparison creates doubt. Too much talking creates tension. The mind needs space to breathe. Set boundaries with your attention. Not every message deserves an answer. Not every problem is yours to fix. Protect your focus the way you'd protect something valuable, because it is. Another way to calm your inner noise is to give your thoughts somewhere to go. Write them down. Putting thoughts on paper gets them out of your head. You'll see that half of what felt overwhelming loses power when it's visible. The mind exaggerates, paper clarifies. Once your thoughts are in front of you, you can separate facts from feelings. You'll see what needs action and what just needs time. When you're overwhelmed, your mind tells you that you have too much to handle. But most of the time, you don't have too much to do, you have too much to think about. Thinking about a task takes more energy than doing it. Calm begins when you stop carrying mental weight you don't need to. Focus on one thing at a time. If you can do it now, do it. If you can't, schedule it. Then stop thinking about it until it's time. Calm isn't something you find once, it's something you practice daily. It's the small pauses between thoughts. It's the patience between what you want and when it arrives. It's choosing not to react when every part of you wants to fight back. Each time you pause instead of panic, you teach your mind that it doesn't need to overheat to survive. You're reprogramming your nervous system for balance. Many people mistake activity for progress. They keep themselves busy to avoid stillness, but silence is not wasted time. In silence, the mind processes. It organizes your emotions. It connects patterns. The most powerful insights often come when you stop trying to force them. The answer that felt out of reach appears naturally once your inner noise quiets down. That's how clarity works. It visits calm spaces. You can notice calm physically. Your shoulders drop, your breathing deepens, your stomach softens, your heartbeat steadies. You feel safe again. That's when your brain's problem-solving ability returns. You start to see choices instead of walls. You remember options you had forgotten. Calm restores logic. Emotion clouds it. The clearer you think, the easier solutions appear. When you're calm, you start separating what's important from what's urgent. You realize that not every message needs a reply right now. Not every conflict needs your energy. You see that peace is not weakness, it's wisdom. The person who can stay composed in chaos always holds the advantage, not because they're detached, but because they can see things as they are, not as fear paints them. Sometimes calm comes from acceptance. When you stop resisting what is happening, your energy shifts. You can't always control events, but you can stop arguing with reality. Resistance multiplies stress. Acceptance reduces it. It doesn't mean you like the situation. It means you stop fighting what you can't change. Once you accept it, you have space to find the next step. Another way to calm your mind is through movement. Walk outside, feel the air, notice your surroundings. When you reconnect with your senses, your thoughts slow down. Nature has a rhythm that reminds your mind to breathe. You can't feel both panic and gratitude at the same time. When you engage your senses, gratitude naturally returns, and with it comes peace. Calm is also built through rest. A tired mind is a noisy mind. Lack of sleep makes small problems look enormous. Rest gives your brain time to reset. Don't glorify exhaustion. Productivity without peace isn't success, it's burnout. True progress includes recovery. Give your mind quiet time, the way you give your body food. Sometimes you need to forgive yourself to quiet the noise. Regret is one of the loudest sounds in the human mind. It keeps repeating what you should have done, could have done, might have done. But the past is unchangeable. You can only learn from it, not live in it. The moment you accept your past as part of your story, the echo starts to fade. Forgiveness is silence to the mind. To solve problems effectively, you must approach them with emotional stability. When your emotions are high, your perspective narrows. You only see from the angle of fear or frustration. Calm widens that angle. You see more possibilities. You hear more clearly. You speak more thoughtfully. That's why the most peaceful person in a room often ends up being the leader, because clarity attracts trust. People think they'll be calm once their life gets easier. But life doesn't get easier. Your mind gets stronger. The same storm that breaks one person can build another. The difference lies in inner stillness. When you know how to return to calm quickly, you stop being afraid of challenges. You stop doubting yourself every time something goes wrong. You trust that you can think your way through it because you've done it before. You can build rituals for calm. Before big decisions, take 5 deep breaths. Before replying in anger, wait a minute. Before ending your day, sit in quiet for a few moments. These are small acts, but they train your brain to slow down before reacting. The more you practice, the faster your mind finds peace. Calm doesn't mean being passive. It means acting with clarity. You can still be strong, assertive, and ambitious while being calm. In fact, calm is what keeps your strength consistent. Anger burns fast. Calm endures. Calm people are not slow, they're deliberate. They don't rush because they know speed without direction leads nowhere. When you learn to calm your inner noise, you start trusting your intuition again. Under stress, your intuition gets buried under fear. Once you're quiet, it rises. You begin to sense what's right without forcing logic. You make better decisions because they're not born from panic. Inner calm reconnects you with the wisdom that's been there all along. If you want solutions, stop chasing them in the noise. Stop trying to think your way out of confusion. Step back, sit still, breathe, observe. Let your thoughts settle the way dust settles after a storm. When the air clears, what you need to do will become obvious. Most solutions are simple. It's the noise that makes them hard to see. Peace is not a personality trait. It's a discipline. It's a choice you make again and again until it becomes your natural state. Every calm response builds a stronger foundation for the next challenge. You start living differently. You stop reacting to every emotion. You start valuing silence over opinion, patience over haste, understanding over being right. When your mind is calm, problems stop controlling your emotions. You start leading your own thoughts instead of being dragged by them. You listen more, judge less, and think deeper. You stop looking for peace outside because you've built it inside. And when you have that, no matter what life throws at you, you can face it with a clear head, a steady heart, and a peaceful mind. That's when real solutions appear not from struggle, but from understanding.
Chapter 3. Question your thoughts instead of believing them blindly. Most people never stop to question what their mind tells them. They hear a thought and assume it's the truth. But not every thought deserves your trust. Your mind is like a storyteller. It creates narratives based on your fears, past experiences, and expectations. Some of those stories are helpful, but many are not. They repeat old pain, exaggerate small worries, and make you believe things about yourself that are not real. If you want peace, if you want clarity, you must begin to question what you think instead of believing it blindly. Your mind has been collecting ideas since you were a child. You learned what was possible, what was dangerous, what was acceptable. Every belief you hold came from somewhere. Parents, teachers, society, failures, pain. Over time, those beliefs turned into automatic thoughts. You don't even notice them. They just appear, telling you who you are and how life works. But here's the truth. Just because a thought is loud doesn't mean it's true. Some of the most convincing thoughts are also the most destructive. Think about how often your mind says things like, "I can't do this," or "they don't like me," or "this will never work." Most people hear those thoughts and stop there. They don't question them. They just obey them. They don't realize those are not facts. They're interpretations. The mind interprets the world through emotion. When you're afraid, your thoughts will exaggerate the danger. When you're angry, your thoughts will justify your reaction. When you're sad, your thoughts will tell you that nothing will ever improve. It's not life that changes, it's your perception. The way to free yourself from these illusions is to pause and ask, is this thought true? Then go deeper. How do I know it's true? What proof do I really have? Is there another way to see this? Most of the time, you'll find that your thought is just an assumption dressed up as truth. Once you question it, it begins to lose power. The mind only controls you when you don't challenge it. Every emotion begins with a thought. If you feel hopeless, somewhere beneath it is a thought saying, things will never get better. If you feel insecure, there's a thought whispering, I'm not enough. If you feel anxious, your mind is predicting failure before it even happens. By questioning these thoughts, you start to weaken their influence. You create space between what happens and how you interpret it. That space is where peace lives. Your thoughts are like clouds. They pass through your mind, but they don't define the sky. The problem is, people start identifying with the clouds. They think, this is me. They say, I am anxious, instead of I am having an anxious thought. The difference seems small, but it's everything. When you believe a thought blindly, you become it. When you question it, you remain the observer. You regain control. The most dangerous thoughts are not the ones that are obviously negative. They're the ones that seem logical but are built on fear. For example, I should wait until I'm more prepared sounds reasonable, but sometimes it's fear pretending to be wisdom. I'll start when I feel ready, feel safe, but it's often a disguise for self-doubt. Your mind is clever. It uses comfort to keep you stuck. When you start questioning those thoughts, you expose the patterns that keep you small. It's important to understand that your mind isn't trying to hurt you, it's trying to protect you. It learned to create fear to keep you safe. The problem is that it doesn't know the difference between physical danger and emotional discomfort. The same alarm that goes off when you're in real danger also activates when you're about to face rejection, failure, or change. Questioning your thoughts helps you calm that false alarm. You begin to see that most fears are not real threats. They're predictions that rarely come true. One powerful way to challenge your thoughts is to imagine a friend coming to you with the same belief. If your friend said, "I'm going to fail," what would you say to them? You'd probably tell them, "You don't know that yet," or "You've done hard things before." Now ask yourself why your mind deserves less compassion than your friend does. Speak to yourself with fairness. Be skeptical of your own negativity. Sometimes your thoughts are not even your own, they're borrowed. You might be carrying someone else's voice inside your head, a critical parent, a harsh teacher, a judgmental peer. Their words may have become your inner dialogue. Questioning your thoughts helps you separate your true voice from the echoes of the past. You get to decide which ones stay. You can begin this process by observing your thoughts throughout the day. When you catch one that feels heavy, pause and write it down. Don't analyze it yet, just notice it. At the end of the day, look at what you've written. Ask yourself, who told me this? Is it true every time, or just sometimes? Does believing this thought help me grow or hold me back? You'll start seeing patterns. Certain thoughts show up again and again in different forms. Those are the ones that need your attention the most. Your beliefs shape your entire experience. If you believe the world is hostile, you'll interpret every action as a threat. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll find proof of it everywhere. The mind looks for evidence to confirm what it already believes. That's why it's dangerous to accept every thought as truth. The mind will build a reality around it. Questioning your thoughts breaks that cycle. It gives you the power to create new beliefs that reflect who you want to become, not who you used to be. When you begin to doubt your thoughts, your ego will resist. It doesn't like being questioned. It will say, "You're wasting time," or "This is pointless." That's just another thought. Smile at it. You don't need to fight your thoughts. You just need to stop obeying them. Over time, the ego's voice grows quieter. You realize it's not the enemy. It's just the old version of you trying to stay in control. Questioning your thoughts also teaches you humility. You begin to see how limited your perspective really is. You realize that your interpretation of reality is only one angle among many. That realization softens judgment. You stop assuming you always know what people mean or why things happen. You stop reacting to misunderstanding. You become more open, more understanding, more peaceful. This practice doesn't mean you reject every thought. It means you become selective. You keep the ones that serve your growth and discard the ones that don't. For example, if you think, "I can learn from this," keep it. If you think, "I'll never succeed," question it. Replace it with something true, like "I don't know yet, but I can try." You're not lying to yourself. You're choosing to focus on what's useful. One of the most liberating moments in life is realizing that thoughts are suggestions, not commands. You don't have to believe everything you think. You don't have to act on every idea that appears. You are the gatekeeper of your mind. You get to decide what enters and what leaves. That's freedom. When you face a problem, your first reaction is usually emotional. The mind immediately generates a story, often a fearful one. It says, "This is terrible," or "I can't handle this." In that moment, stop and question it. Ask, is this fact or assumption? If it's assumption, you can set it aside. Then focus on facts. What's really happening? What's within my control? What step can I take right now? The moment you separate emotion from fact, your problem becomes smaller and clearer. Questioning your thoughts doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It takes courage to challenge your own mind. Most people never do it. They live inside their beliefs without realizing they built the walls themselves. They call it reality, but it's just perception. When you start questioning, you're breaking those walls down one by one. You make room for truth to enter. You can also train yourself to look for opposing evidence. If your mind says, "I always mess things up," find examples of when you succeeded. If it says, "Nobody cares about me," remember moments when someone showed kindness. This rewires your brain to balance negativity with reality. The mind exaggerates pain because it's wired for survival. You must consciously remind it that not every thought is a threat. Over time, you'll notice a shift. The voice in your head becomes less demanding. You'll stop feeling like a prisoner to your emotions. You'll still have thoughts, but they'll feel lighter, easier to manage. You'll respond to challenges with curiosity instead of fear. You'll begin to trust your judgment because it's no longer clouded by old narratives. Every great change begins with self-awareness. When you understand how your thoughts shape your emotions, you stop being controlled by them. You become a thinker, not just a reactor. You start choosing thoughts that build confidence instead of anxiety, hope instead of doubt. It's not about being positive all the time. It's about being honest enough to challenge what's false. The world around you may never change as fast as you want. But when you question your thoughts, your experience of that world transforms completely. You stop living from fear. You stop believing that every worry deserves attention. You stop assuming that your feelings define reality. You start living with awareness, not assumptions. The mind will always produce thoughts. That's its job. But it's your job to decide which ones guide your life. Every time you pause to question, you reclaim a piece of your peace. You strengthen your ability to think clearly, choose wisely, and live calmly. You begin to see that truth and fear sound different, and peace always follows truth. So the next time your mind tells you that you can't, that you're not enough, or that things will never change, don't argue, don't fight, just ask, is that true? And watch how silence follows that question. Because most of the time, your mind has no real answer, it's just noise. And in that silence, clarity returns. In that space, solutions appear. That's where freedom begins. Not by controlling every thought, but by seeing them for what they are. Passing stories, not permanent truth.
Chapter 4. Face discomfort until it loses power over your peace. Most people spend their entire lives running from discomfort. They avoid the hard conversations, hide from failure, distract themselves when they feel pain, and call it survival. But avoiding discomfort doesn't protect your peace. It destroys it. Every time you escape what makes you uncomfortable, it grows stronger. Every time you face it, it loses its hold on you. Discomfort is not your enemy. It's a teacher trying to show you where your growth lives. If you want real peace, you must stop running and start facing what hurts until it no longer controls you.
Peace is not found in the absence of challenge, it's built in the presence of it. Life will never stop testing you. Every time you think you've reached stability, something new will come along to shake it. That's not punishment, it's training. The goal isn't to escape the fire, it's to learn how to stand in it without burning. The only way to do that is to stop fearing discomfort. Discomfort is the signal that you are stepping into something unfamiliar. It's the sign that your comfort zone is ending and your real potential is beginning. But most people misunderstand that feeling. They believe that being uncomfortable means something is wrong. They interpret tension as danger and back away before they even see what's on the other side. Growth always feels uncomfortable before it feels rewarding. You can't build strength in the same space that keeps you safe. When you face discomfort, your mind will panic at first. It will tell you to leave, to hide, to return to what's easy. But if you stay long enough, you'll notice something interesting. The fear begins to fade. What once felt unbearable becomes manageable. What once felt threatening becomes ordinary. That's how you take power away from discomfort. Not by avoiding it, but by proving to your mind that it's survivable. Your peace is not fragile, it just hasn't been tested enough. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the stronger your tolerance becomes. You learn that rejection won't break you. You learn that failure doesn't define you. You learn that uncertainty isn't the end of control, it's the beginning of trust. Every time you face what scares you, your mind learns a new truth. I can handle this, and that belief is the foundation of peace. Discomfort shows up in many forms. It could be the awkward silence after you tell the truth. It could be the moment you choose discipline over laziness. It could be the quiet loneliness of working on yourself while everyone else seeks distraction. These moments don't feel good, but they build a kind of peace that pleasure never can. Pleasure gives temporary relief. Discomfort gives lasting strength. There's a calm that comes only after you stop avoiding pain. When you finally turn toward what you've been running from, you realize it's not as powerful as your imagination made it. Most suffering comes not from pain itself, but from resisting it. When you stop resisting, the pain starts to soften. It becomes information instead of punishment. It tells you what needs healing, what needs change, what needs acceptance. If you've ever gone through heartbreak, failure, or loss, you've already seen this truth in action. The first wave of pain feels unbearable, but over time, as you face it, the edges of that pain begin to dull. What once felt impossible to live through becomes something you can talk about calmly. That transformation didn't happen because time healed you. It happened because you stayed with the discomfort long enough for understanding to grow. Most people confuse comfort with peace. Comfort is temporary. It depends on your surroundings. Peace is permanent. It depends on your mindset. You can sit in a comfortable room and still feel restless inside. You can be in chaos and still feel grounded if you've built peace through discomfort. The more you practice staying present in difficult emotions, the less you'll need life to be perfect to feel okay. Facing discomfort doesn't mean forcing yourself to suffer unnecessarily. It means being honest about the feelings you've been avoiding. It means sitting with sadness without immediately distracting yourself. It means acknowledging fear instead of pretending you're fine. It means admitting that you don't have control over everything and realizing that's okay. Peace isn't about control, it's about surrendering to what's real. Discomfort becomes powerful when you treat it like a wall. Every time you feel it, that's where you stop. If you can push through that wall, even slightly, you expand your life. Think of how many opportunities people miss because they couldn't handle temporary unease. They avoid saying what they really think, so relationships stay shallow. They avoid taking risks, so dreams never grow. They avoid facing mistakes, so the same patterns repeat. Discomfort guards everything worth having. If you want more peace, more confidence, more freedom. You must walk through that gate. When you start facing discomfort consciously, it changes the way you see yourself. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances. You begin to trust your ability to endure. You stop saying, "I can't handle this," and start saying, "This is hard, but I'll get through it." That shift in language changes your entire emotional state. It moves you from helplessness to ownership. Ownership brings peace, because it reminds you that you're not powerless. You're growing. People think peace means everything goes smoothly. It doesn't. Peace means that when things fall apart, you don't fall apart with them. You can still think clearly even when you're hurting. You can still act with integrity even when you're angry. You can still move forward even when the outcome is uncertain. That kind of peace doesn't come from comfort. It's built from repeatedly facing discomfort until it stops shaking you. There's a difference between pain that hurts and pain that heals. The first one drains you. The second one transforms you. Growth pain teaches you patience, humility, strength, and compassion. It shows you how to stay calm when life doesn't cooperate. It shows you that fear is not fatal. It's a signal that you're expanding. Each time you endure a moment of discomfort with awareness, you grow a little stronger, a little freer, a little more at peace. Discomfort also exposes truth. It reveals what really matters to you. When you're tested, you find out which values are genuine and which were just words. You discover who stands with you and who disappears. You realize what's essential and what's just noise. Discomfort clears illusions. It strips away what's fake and leaves what's real. That's why peace often comes after struggle. The struggle removes everything unnecessary. When discomfort appears, your natural instinct is to escape, but the moment you escape, it follows you in a new form. The same fears appear in different situations until you face them directly. Life keeps presenting the same lesson until you learn it. The quicker you confront it, the sooner you free yourself. Running from discomfort keeps you stuck in repetition. Walking through it opens new possibilities. You can train yourself to face discomfort with small steps. Start by doing something slightly harder than usual each day. Speak up when you'd normally stay quiet. Sit with silence instead of reaching for your phone. Admit when you don't know something instead of pretending you do. These small acts teach your mind that discomfort is survivable. Over time, you'll stop seeing it as a threat and start seeing it as growth. When you resist discomfort, it feels like an enemy. When you face it, it becomes a teacher. Every uncomfortable emotion carries a message. Anger says your boundaries are crossed. Fear says something valuable is at stake. Sadness says something meaningful has ended. If you listen, these emotions guide you toward healing. If you avoid them, they keep repeating until you pay attention. To truly master peace, you must learn to sit with tension without demanding that it disappear. That's maturity. To feel discomfort and not react destructively. To let life be imperfect without trying to fix everything immediately. The world doesn't owe you comfort. What it offers instead is growth. And growth requires friction. If you expect life to be easy, you'll always be disappointed. If you expect it to be challenging, but manageable, you'll find peace even in chaos. Facing discomfort doesn't make you cold, it makes you resilient. It teaches you empathy, because once you've known your own pain deeply, you understand others more compassionately. People who've avoided pain often judge quickly. People who've faced it judge less. They know that everyone's carrying something unseen. That understanding softens your heart and strengthens your peace. There will be moments when discomfort feels endless. You'll think it's too much, that it will never pass. But every emotion has a lifespan. No feeling lasts forever. If you breathe through it, stay present, and resist the urge to escape. You'll see it fade. The next time it returns, it will feel lighter. Eventually, what once triggered panic will barely move you. That's not numbness. That's mastery. Peace doesn't come from perfect circumstances. It comes from trust. Trust that you can face whatever comes and still remain whole. The moment you stop fearing discomfort, you stop living defensively. You stop waiting for everything to be calm before you relax. You start carrying calm within you. No matter what's happening outside, discomfort is the doorway to emotional freedom. Walk through it often. Feel the sting, the tension, the fear. But stay steady. Let discomfort speak until it runs out of things to say. When you can sit in its presence without losing your balance, you'll know real peace. Not the temporary kind that depends on conditions, but the deep kind that lives inside you. That's the quiet power of facing discomfort. You stop hiding. You stop shrinking. You stop needing life to be easy to feel okay. You learn to stand in the storm without trembling. You understand that peace isn't something life gives you. It's something you build by refusing to run from what hurts. And once you face discomfort long enough, it loses its power. And what's left is strength, clarity, and a calm that nothing can take away.
Chapter 5. Accept uncertainty and learn to stay steady within it. Uncertainty is one of the hardest things for the human mind to accept. We want to know what's coming. We want to be sure that things will work out, that people will stay, that plans will unfold the way we imagined. But life doesn't work that way. No matter how much you prepare or how tightly you hold on, there will always be things you can't control. The truth is, peace begins the moment you stop demanding certainty and start learning how to stay steady inside the unknown. Most of our stress doesn't come from what is happening. It comes from what we think might happen. The mind hates not knowing. It tries to fill every gap with predictions, assumptions, and worst-case scenarios. That's why uncertainty feels so heavy. It's not the unknown that hurts, it's the mental noise we create around it. When you learn to live without needing all the answers, you take back control of your peace. Uncertainty is not chaos, it's reality. Every moment of your life has always been uncertain. You've just learned to ignore it when things feel stable. The future has never been guaranteed. Not for a single person. What makes life beautiful and terrifying at the same time is that you never know exactly how it will unfold. You can plan, but you can't predict. You can hope, but you can't demand. The only real control you have is over your state of mind. That's where steadiness begins. When you try to fight uncertainty, you create anxiety. When you accept it, you find calm. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means understanding that your energy is better spent on adapting than resisting. The more you fight to control the uncontrollable, the more power you give to fear. But the moment you stop trying to force outcomes, you feel lighter. You begin to move through life with clarity instead of tension. People often say, "I just want to know what's going to happen," as if knowing would solve everything. But certainty doesn't guarantee peace. How many times have you known what was coming and still felt uneasy? What you're really searching for isn't certainty, it's safety. And safety doesn't come from knowing the future. It comes from trusting your ability to handle it, whatever it brings. Uncertainty is the soil where growth takes root. Without it, you would never learn courage, patience, or faith. Every step forward in your life has required walking into something you couldn't predict. You started new jobs, moved to new places, entered new relationships, all without guarantees. Growth and uncertainty are inseparable. You can't evolve while clinging to the familiar. The price of transformation is letting go of certainty.
Learning to stay steady in uncertainty begins with awareness. Notice what your mind does when it feels unsure. It starts spinning, doesn't it? It creates stories. It imagines outcomes that haven't happened. It tries to find something solid to hold on to. You can interrupt that process by grounding yourself in the present moment. When your mind jumps into the future, bring it back by asking, what's true right now? Usually what's true is much simpler than what you imagine. You're breathing, you're alive. You have choices. You're safe right now. The mind likes to believe that certainty equals safety, but the opposite is often true. When you demand certainty, you limit yourself. You say no to opportunities because you can't guarantee the result. You stay in places that make you unhappy because at least they're predictable. You choose familiarity over fulfillment. Learning to stay steady within uncertainty allows you to take risks that lead to a better life. It's not recklessness, it's courage built on trust in yourself. Uncertainty is uncomfortable because it challenges the illusion of control. We like to believe that if we plan carefully enough, we can avoid pain, loss or failure. But no plan can guarantee that. Control gives the illusion of safety, but it often becomes a trap. You start trying to manage every detail of your life, and when something doesn't go your way, you collapse. The wiser path is flexibility. To stay steady, even when things move in directions you didn't expect. There's a quiet strength in being okay with not knowing. It means you've matured beyond needing life to obey your preferences. You've learned that peace doesn't come from certainty, it comes from stability within. When you build that stability, you can walk into any situation without fear of losing yourself. Life stops feeling like a series of threats and starts feeling like a series of experiences. Each one an opportunity to learn, to grow, to practice calm. Think about how much energy is wasted on trying to control the uncontrollable. People spend nights awake over what someone might say, how something might turn out, or whether things will go as planned. They live in mental scenarios that never happen. The truth is, most of what you worry about doesn't come true, and the things that do you handle better than you expected. You've already survived countless uncertainties, you'll survive the next ones too. The steadiness you're seeking is not something you find, it's something you build. You build it through consistency, patience and self-trust. When you keep promises to yourself, you strengthen your foundation. When you do what you say you'll do, even when it's uncomfortable, you prove to your mind that you can depend on yourself. That dependability creates inner calm. When uncertainty comes, you no longer panic because you've built confidence in your ability to adapt. One of the simplest ways to stay steady is to focus on what's within your reach. The human mind loves to wander into the future, but peace only exists in the present. You can't control tomorrow, but you can control your choices today. You can't know what people will do, but you can control how you respond. When your focus stays on what's actionable, uncertainty loses its bite. You stop feeling powerless because you're grounded in what's real. Many people think acceptance means passivity. It doesn't. Acceptance is power. It's saying, this is what's happening, and I'll work with it instead of against it. When you accept uncertainty, you stop wasting energy resisting what already is. That energy can then be used for problem solving, creativity and action. Acceptance clears the fog, so you can see the path forward. You can practice acceptance through small acts of surrender. When plans change unexpectedly, breathe instead of reacting. When someone disappoints you, pause before assuming the worst. When life throws something unfamiliar at you, remind yourself, I can handle this. Over time, these small acts add up. They build a quiet resilience that doesn't crumble when the ground beneath you shifts. Uncertainty is where your faith is tested, not necessarily religious faith, but faith in life, in timing, in yourself. It's easy to believe in peace when everything is predictable. It's harder when things fall apart. But that's where you find out who you really are. The person who can stay centered in uncertainty doesn't depend on conditions to feel calm. They carry calm with them. That's real freedom. Fear will try to convince you that uncertainty is dangerous. It will say, "What if it doesn't work out?" But you can answer, "What if it does?" It will say, "What if I fail?" You can reply, "Then I'll learn and adjust." You can't silence fear completely, but you can talk back to it with reason. The goal is not to eliminate fear, it's to stop letting it decide your future. When life feels uncertain, anchor yourself in what never changes: your values, your character, your effort. Outcomes may shift, people may come and go, but who you choose to be remains in your control. That's where steadiness comes from. You stop chasing guarantees outside and start building trust inside. It helps to remember that uncertainty also holds possibility. The same unknown that carries fear also carries potential. The job you might lose could lead to something great. The relationship that ended could create space for something healthier. The plan that failed could teach you something essential. The unknown is not only the home of risk, it's also the birthplace of opportunity. When you accept uncertainty, you open yourself to new beginnings that certainty would have closed off. You can develop emotional steadiness through routine. When the world feels unpredictable, having daily practices that ground you makes a difference. Wake up and focus your mind before the day begins. Reflect at night on what went well instead of what went wrong. Eat well, move your body, breathe deeply. These small anchors remind your nervous system that stability exists, even in uncertainty. It's also important to give yourself permission to feel uneasy. Uncertainty naturally creates tension, and that's okay. The goal isn't to eliminate discomfort, but to stay calm while it's present. The more you allow yourself to feel uncertainty without trying to fix it immediately, the more your tolerance grows. That tolerance becomes your strength. You stop being afraid of life's unpredictability because you've practiced existing within it. Some of the most peaceful people you'll ever meet are not those who have perfect lives. They're the ones who've learned to let life unfold. They trust the process, even when it's messy. They don't chase answers. They move forward step by step, adjusting as they go. They understand that every season of uncertainty eventually brings clarity. Nothing stays unclear forever. When you accept uncertainty, you also accept impermanence. You understand that everything in life, pain, joy, success, failure, is temporary. That realization doesn't make life bleak, it makes it precious. You stop taking things for granted because you know they can change. You start appreciating the small moments, the ordinary days, the simple peace of being alive. Uncertainty becomes less of a threat and more of a reminder to live fully now. Staying steady within uncertainty doesn't mean never wavering. You'll have moments of doubt and fear. But steadiness means you return to center each time. You catch yourself when your mind starts racing. You breathe. You remind yourself that you've handled uncertainty before, and you can handle it again. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to stay aware. The mind seeks certainty because it fears loss, but peace is found in letting go. You can't predict every outcome, but you can trust your capacity to adapt. You can't control every storm, but you can learn how to sail through it. When you stop needing guarantees, you begin to live freely. So stop asking for life to give you answers. Before you move, start moving and let the answers reveal themselves along the way. Don't wait for certainty to begin living. It never comes. Learn to breathe through the unknown, to stay balanced when plans shift, to keep your heart open when outcomes aren't clear. The moment you stop fighting uncertainty and start flowing with it, something remarkable happens. You begin to experience peace, not as a result of control, but as a result of trust. You stop needing life to be predictable to feel safe. You stop fearing change because you know you can meet it with calm. You stop searching for guarantees and start creating stability from within. That is what it means to accept uncertainty and stay steady within. It's not about knowing the path ahead. It's about walking it with presence and courage. It's about trusting yourself enough to face the unknown with open eyes and a calm heart. And when you live that way, uncertainty no longer feels like a threat. It becomes the quiet space where peace, growth, and new beginnings are born.
Chapter 6. Recognize your emotions early and guide them with reason. Most people are not destroyed by their emotions. They are destroyed by their inability to recognize them early. Emotions are not the problem. It's the delay in noticing them that creates damage. When you ignore what you feel, emotions build quietly until they explode. When you deny them, they hide and shape your behavior without your awareness. But when you notice them early and guide them with reason, you reclaim control over your mind, your actions, and your peace. Emotions are signals. They are messengers, not dictators. Anger tells you something feels unfair. Fear warns you of possible danger. Sadness shows that something important has been lost. But most people don't treat emotions as information. They treat them as orders. They react instead of reflecting. They speak before thinking, act before calming, judge before understanding. That's when emotions take over and reason disappears. The key to emotional mastery is to observe what you feel without rushing to obey it. Recognizing emotions early requires awareness. You can't control what you don't notice. The earlier you catch the emotion, the easier it is to manage. Think of it like a spark. If you see it early, you can cool it down easily, but if you ignore it, it turns into a fire that burns everything in its path. Most people try to control the fire instead of preventing the spark. Real emotional intelligence starts with awareness, not reaction. You can train yourself to notice emotions by paying attention to your body. Your body often knows what you feel before your mind does. Your chest tightens when you're anxious. Your jaw clenches when you're angry. Your shoulders drop when you're sad. These physical signs are clues. When you learn to listen, your body becomes your emotional compass. The moment you sense something changing, pause. Don't rush to label it or fix it. Just notice it. Awareness is the beginning of control. Once you recognize the emotion, you have two choices. Let it drive you or guide it with reason. Emotions are powerful forces. They can move you toward wisdom or destruction, depending on how you handle them. Reason doesn't mean suppressing what you feel. It means managing how you express it. When emotion and reason work together, you act with clarity and strength. When emotion acts alone, you react with confusion and regret. Most people either overreact or disconnect. Some drown in their emotions, letting them dictate every choice. Others deny their emotions entirely, pretending not to feel. Both paths lead to imbalance. Overreaction causes chaos. Suppression causes disconnection. Emotional maturity lies in the middle, feeling deeply but thinking clearly. You acknowledge what you feel, but you don't hand it the steering wheel. It's important to remember that emotions are temporary visitors. They come and go like waves. No feeling stays forever unless you keep feeding it. Anger lingers when you replay the story. Sadness deepens when you resist it. Anxiety grows when you chase control. When you guide emotions with reason, you stop giving them unnecessary power. You let them rise, deliver their message, and fade naturally. To guide emotions, you need to slow down your reactions. Most people feel first, speak second, regret third. The goal is to insert reflection between feeling and action. That small pause changes everything. It gives your logical mind time to step in. It allows you to ask, is this emotion based on fact or interpretation? Will acting on this help or harm? What's a better way to respond? That's how reason transforms emotion into wisdom.
Let's say someone says something that offends you. Your first reaction might be anger. If you react immediately, you might say or do something you'll regret. But if you pause, notice the emotion, and think, you might realize your anger came not from what they said, but from how it made you feel about yourself. In that pause, you take back power. You respond consciously instead of emotion. That's emotional leadership, being in charge of your inner world. Recognizing emotions early also helps you communicate better. When you understand what you're feeling, you can express it clearly instead of projecting it onto others. You can say, "I feel hurt," instead of shouting. You always do this. You can say, "I'm anxious," instead of withdrawing in silence. Emotional awareness creates emotional honesty, and honesty builds connection. People can't respond to feelings you never express. Children react to emotions. Adults respond to them. Growth means learning to carry feelings without letting them control your decisions. It means understanding that emotion and logic can coexist. You can be upset and still act kindly. You can be scared and still take the next step. You can be disappointed and still move forward. That balance is what creates a peaceful mind. Not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Sometimes people believe that strong emotions make them weak. They think showing sadness means failure, or expressing fear means they're not brave. But strength is not the absence of feeling. It's the ability to face what you feel without losing balance. When you recognize your emotions and guide them with wisdom, you turn vulnerability into strength. You stop being reactive and start being responsive. You stop carrying emotional baggage that doesn't belong to the present moment. Emotional awareness doesn't mean analyzing every thought. It means understanding patterns. Notice which emotions show up most often. Do you get angry when you feel unheard? Do you get anxious when things are uncertain? Do you shut down when criticized? These patterns reveal old wounds that still influence you. Once you see them, you can separate past pain from present reality. That separation gives you freedom. You no longer react today as if it's yesterday. Reason doesn't silence emotion, it refines it. For example, fear can protect you when danger is real, but when fear controls you, it keeps you stuck. Reason asks, is this fear helping me or holding me back? Sadness helps you process loss, but when sadness turns into self-pity, reason says, it's time to let go. Anger can motivate change, but when anger turns to resentment, reason reminds you that peace is more valuable than revenge. Reason is the guide that keeps emotion aligned with truth. You can develop emotional reasoning through reflection. At the end of each day, think about moments when emotion guided your behavior. Were there times you reacted too quickly? Were there moments you stayed calm when you normally wouldn't? Reflection strengthens awareness. It's how you learn from experience instead of repeating it. Emotional mastery is built through observation, not judgment. It's also helpful to create space before responding to emotionally charged situations. Step away for a few minutes if you can. Breathe slowly. Remind yourself that emotion is energy. It needs time to settle. Once your body relaxes, your mind regains clarity. Many regrets could be avoided if people allowed emotions to cool before taking action. Patience is a form of intelligence. It gives you control when everything around you feels intense. Guiding emotions with reason also means choosing where to place your attention. Emotions follow focus. The more you focus on what's wrong, the stronger your frustration grows. The more you focus on gratitude or solutions, the calmer your emotions become. You can't always choose your feelings, but you can choose what feeds them. Attention is fuel. Use it wisely. Sometimes you'll face emotions that feel overwhelming. You might feel sadness that won't lift or anger that burns for days. When that happens, reason helps you step back and observe instead of drown. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What needs attention here? Emotions often repeat until they are understood. Once you address their root, they release their grip. Emotional maturity is not about being happy all the time. It's about being honest and balanced. no matter what you feel. When you recognize emotions early, you stop being surprised by them. When you guide them with reason, you stop being controlled by them. Peace grows naturally, because you no longer live at the mercy of every passing feeling. Emotions are part of being human. They bring color to life. Without them, everything would feel flat and mechanical. But like water, they need direction. Uncontrolled, they flood and destroy. Guided, they nourish and strengthen. The goal isn't to dry the river. It's to build strong banks that guide its flow. That's what reason does for emotion. If you want to build a peaceful mind, practice noticing your emotions in real time. When you start to feel tense, name it. I'm frustrated. When you feel uneasy, say I'm anxious. Naming emotions reduces their intensity, because it activates the rational part of your brain. You move from being the emotion to observing it. That simple step changes everything. Awareness turns emotion from chaos into clarity. It's also important to remember that you can feel multiple emotions at once. You can be grateful and sad. You can be hopeful and afraid. You can be proud and uncertain. The mind likes to label feelings as good or bad, but emotions are just experiences passing through. Don't judge them, understand them. The moment you stop labeling emotions as wrong, you start learning from them. Some of your strongest emotions come from unmet needs. When you're angry, maybe you need respect. When you're sad, maybe you need connection. When you're anxious, maybe you need stability. If you can identify the need beneath the emotion, you can address the cause instead of fighting the symptom. Reason helps you see that emotions are not random. They're signals pointing to something deep. The ability to guide your emotions defines how you handle life's challenges. When others panic, you can stay centered. When conflict arises, you can respond with clarity. When disappointment appears, you can recover faster. That steadiness makes you dependable to yourself and to others. It builds confidence that no matter what happens, you can handle your inner world with strength. There's great peace in knowing that you can feel deeply without losing control. It means you trust yourself. You know that emotion will visit, but you also know it will leave. You don't fear anger, sadness, or fear anymore, because you've learned how to meet them with awareness and guide them with reason. That is emotional freedom. When you live this way, life doesn't become easier, but it becomes clearer. You stop reacting to every situation based on momentary feeling. You start responding based on understanding. You no longer need to suppress your emotions or let them dominate you. You find balance between heart and mind. That's what it means to recognize your emotions early and guide them with reason. It's a practice of awareness, honesty, and patience. It's choosing to lead yourself through every feeling with understanding instead of resistance. It's learning to let emotions speak, but not letting them decide. And when you master that balance, your peace becomes unshakable, your decisions become wiser, and your life begins to move with the quiet strength of a mind and heart working together in harmony.
Chapter 7. Turn your pain into clarity instead of carrying it forever. Pain is a part of every human story. No one escapes it. You can hide from it, numb it, or pretend it doesn't exist, but it will stay until you face it. Pain itself is not the enemy. It becomes the enemy when you carry it for too long without learning what it's trying to teach you. When you hold on to pain, it becomes your identity. When you learn from it, it becomes your clarity. The difference between people who stay stuck in pain and those who grow from it lies in how they interpret it. Most people believe pain is punishment, but it's not. It's feedback. It's the body and mind's way of saying something needs your attention. Pain is information wrapped in discomfort. It pushes you to stop, reflect, and change something. When you ignore it, it grows louder. When you face it, it starts revealing truth. Every painful experience carries a message, and that message is meant to guide you toward a clearer understanding of yourself and your life. Carrying pain forever is like keeping a wound open long after it could have healed. You touch it again and again, reminding yourself how much it hurt. You replay the moment,
The betrayal, the failure, the loss. You think that remembering it keeps you safe from repeating it, but what it really does is keep you from living fully. The mind convinces you that holding on gives you control, but in truth it holds you captive. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means seeing the pain clearly enough to release it. Turning pain into clarity begins with acceptance. You can't transform what you refuse to acknowledge. Many people spend years running from their pain, burying themselves in work, distractions, or relationships just to avoid feeling. But pain avoided is pain prolonged. The moment you stop running and face it, you begin to see it differently. It's not just suffering, it's a signal. Acceptance doesn't erase what happened, but it gives you the power to work with it instead of against it. Once you accept pain, the next step is understanding it. Ask yourself, what is this pain trying to teach me? What truth have I been avoiding? What does this experience reveal about what matters to me? Pain can show you where you've been neglecting yourself. It can show you which boundaries were too weak or which expectations were unrealistic. It can show you what you need to change to move forward. When you look at pain through this lens, it stops being meaningless suffering and starts becoming a source of wisdom. Every painful experience changes you. The question is how. It can make you bitter or make you better. It can close your heart or open your eyes. It can make you afraid of life or more compassionate toward others. The choice is yours. Growth isn't automatic, it's intentional. You decide whether pain breaks you or builds you. When you choose to learn from it, pain becomes your greatest teacher. It strips away illusion, pride, and denial until only truth remains. Clarity comes when you see pain as part of your evolution, not as a personal failure. Every setback, loss, or heartbreak forces you to re-examine what you thought you knew. It humbles you. It teaches you that life doesn't always go according to your plan, and that's okay. Sometimes the things you thought you needed were only blocking what you truly needed. Sometimes losing something brings you closer to yourself. Pain clears away the noise, so you can hear what really matters. It's important to feel your pain fully before you can turn it into understanding. Avoiding emotion only keeps it frozen inside you. Give yourself permission to feel sadness, anger, regret, confusion, whatever comes up. Don't rush to label it or fix it. Let yourself process. Emotion moves when it's acknowledged. When you allow yourself to feel completely, the energy of pain begins to transform. What was once chaos becomes insight. You start to understand not just what happened, but what it awakened in you. One of the hardest truths about pain is that it doesn't disappear just because you're tired of it. It waits for you to learn from it. You can bury it under distractions, but it will resurface whenever life touches the same nerve. Healing happens when you stop running from the lesson inside the pain. Sometimes that lesson is forgiveness. Sometimes it's self-respect. Sometimes it's learning to let go of control. The pain remains until the lesson is understood. Forgiveness is often a turning point in transforming pain into clarity. Forgiving doesn't mean excusing what happened. It means freeing yourself from the emotional weight of it. Holding on to anger or resentment doesn't protect you. It poisons you. It keeps you emotionally tied to the very thing that hurt you. Forgiveness releases that bond. It says, I won't let this define me anymore. It's not about the other person, it's about your peace. Clarity also comes from seeing pain in its proper place. Pain is part of your past, not your identity. You are not what happened to you, you are what you chose to become because of it. The moment you separate your identity from your experience, you regain power. You stop describing yourself as broken and start describing yourself as aware. That shift changes how you move through life. You no longer see yourself as a victim of pain, but as a student of it. To turn pain into clarity, you must be willing to ask hard questions. What role did I play in this? What patterns led me here? What am I still resisting? Honest reflection is uncomfortable because it exposes truths we'd rather avoid, but those truths are what set you free. Clarity is never comfortable, but it's always liberating. Pain loses its grip when you understand it deeply enough to learn from it. Another powerful step in transforming pain is expression. Speak it, write it, create from it. When you give your pain a voice, it no longer controls you from the shadows. Expression turns pain into art, emotion into message, and suffering into strength. You don't have to broadcast it to the world, you just have to stop hiding it from yourself. Putting pain into words helps you make sense of it, and when you make sense of it, you can finally let it go. Every painful memory carries a hidden insight about life. The heartbreak that left you shattered taught you what kind of love you deserve. The failure that embarrassed you taught you humility and resilience. The rejection that broke your confidence forced you to build it from within instead of seeking it from others. Pain has a strange way of redirecting you toward your real path. What looks like loss at first often turns out to be protection or preparation. You don't grow by avoiding pain, you grow by understanding what it reveals. Some of the most peaceful people in the world are not those who've had easy lives, they're the ones who've faced pain and made peace with it. They've stopped asking, why me, and started asking, what now? That shift moves you from suffering to clarity. When you accept that pain is part of being alive, it stops feeling like an interruption and starts feeling like a natural part of growth. There's a quiet strength that comes from surviving what once terrified you. When you realize that pain didn't destroy you, something changes inside. You begin to trust yourself more. You stop fearing future pain because you know you can handle it. That confidence becomes clarity. You understand that life's challenges don't come to punish you, they come to prepare you. To find clarity in pain, focus on what it has revealed, not what it has taken. Pain often strips away things that weren't serving you: false relationships, illusions of control, attachments that limited your freedom. In the space that follows, clarity emerges. You begin to see what truly matters. You discover who stands by you, what fulfills you, what aligns with your values. Pain removes what's false so truth can take its place. One of the most profound realizations about pain is that it connects us. Everyone suffers in some form. When you've faced your own pain honestly, you become more understanding toward others. You stop judging their reactions because you know how hard it is to carry invisible wounds. That empathy brings a deeper peace. It reminds you that you're not alone in your struggle, and neither is anyone else. Pain becomes a problem only when it turns into identity. When you keep replaying the story, you keep reliving the hurt. But when you step back and look at the lesson, the story changes. You start saying, that experience taught me patience. That loss showed me what I value. That failure helped me grow. The narrative shifts from victimhood to wisdom. That's clarity. Seeing the same event through a higher level of understanding. It's okay to revisit pain, but not to live in. Healing doesn't mean the memory disappears. It means it no longer controls your emotions. When you can think about your past without feeling bitterness or regret, you know you've turned pain into clarity. You've reclaimed the energy that used to be trapped in the wound and redirected it toward growth. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. Pain doesn't instantly turn into peace. It takes patience, reflection, and self-compassion. Some days you'll feel strong and grateful for what you've learned. Other days you'll feel tired and wish it never happened. Both are part of healing. The goal isn't to rush the process, but to stay present with it. Every time you choose understanding over resentment, you move closer to clarity. When pain visits, don't ask for it to leave right away. Ask it to speak. Ask what it's trying to show you about yourself, about your priorities, about your strength. When you listen, pain becomes guidance. When you ignore it, it becomes a burden. In time, you'll see that pain was never just an obstacle. It was a mirror. It showed you what needed healing, what needed growth, and what needed release. It pointed you back to yourself, The version of you that emerges after pain is always more real, more grounded, more aware. Turning pain into clarity means reclaiming your story. It's saying, this happened but it doesn't define me. It's recognizing that every wound carries wisdom, every loss carries direction, and every heartbreak carries truth. When you live with that awareness, pain stops being a weight you drag through life and becomes a light that guides your way forward. That is the power of transformation, taking what once broke you and using it to build understanding, compassion, and strength. When you can look back and say that pain gave me vision, you've reached real peace. Not because life became easier, but because you learned to see clearly through the hardest moments. And once you gain that clarity, no pain can control you again. You've already turned it into power.
Chapter 8. Rebuild trust in yourself through small daily follow-throughs. There comes a point in every person's life when they stop trusting themselves. It happens quietly. You make promises you don't keep. You set goals you abandon halfway. You talk about change, but return to the same patterns. After a while, you begin to doubt your own word. You start saying things like, I can't stay consistent, or I never follow through, and deep down, that doubt eats away at your confidence. You stop believing that you're capable, not because you lack ability, but because you've broken too many small agreements with yourself. Rebuilding trust doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens through small daily follow-throughs that remind your mind, I mean what I say. Trust in yourself is the foundation of peace. Without it, you move through life second-guessing every decision. You ask others for permission to do what you already know is right. You chase motivation because discipline feels foreign. You compare your progress to others because you've lost faith in your own path. But self-trust is not something you are born with. It's something you build, one promise at a time. Every small action that aligns with your word strengthens it. Every broken promise weakens it. The formula is simple but powerful. Keep small promises consistently. When people lose trust in themselves, they often think they need a huge transformation to get it back. They try to overhaul their life overnight. They say, tomorrow, I'll start waking up at 5. I'll work out, eat clean, read every day, change everything. But within days, they're exhausted, discouraged, and back where they started. The truth is, big promises are often a disguise for fear. They sound inspiring, but are designed to fail. Real confidence doesn't come from massive leaps. It comes from steady steps. If you want to trust yourself again, stop focusing on what you can do in a week and start focusing on what you can repeat for a lifetime. Follow-through is how your subconscious learns that your words have value. Each time you say you'll do something and actually do it, you strengthen an invisible bond with yourself. You teach your mind that you can depend on your own commitment. That consistency becomes your anchor, especially when life gets unpredictable. The stronger that inner trust grows, the less you rely on outside approval. You stop needing others to tell you you're doing enough, because your actions already prove it to you. Small daily follow-throughs don't have to be dramatic. They could be as simple as making your bed, finishing a task you started, or going for that walk you said you would take. It's not the scale of the action that matters, it's the integrity behind it. Every time you follow through, you remind yourself that your word carries weight. That's how inner confidence grows, quietly and steadily, until it becomes unshakable. There's something powerful about finishing what you start, no matter how small. Completion builds trust. When you leave things undone, unfinished projects, unfulfilled promises, your mind begins to associate effort with failure. You start believing you can't finish anything. But when you complete even the smallest tasks, you reverse that pattern. You start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. That identity shift is what rebuilds trust from the inside out.
The reason small follow-throughs work so effectively is that they bypass the resistance of perfectionism. When you aim for small wins, you remove excuses. You don't need ideal conditions to act. You don't wait to feel ready. You just show up. Over time, those small, consistent efforts create momentum. Momentum creates belief, and belief creates peace. You stop fighting with yourself because your actions and intentions finally align. Trust is built through consistency, not intensity. Anyone can push hard for a day or a week, but real strength is doing what needs to be done long after the excitement fades. When you build a habit of following through daily, you stop relying on willpower. You operate from identity. You don't ask, "Can I do this?" You know you can, because you've proved it repeatedly. That quiet certainty is the seed of self-respect. Self-trust is not about perfection. You will fail sometimes. You'll make plans and fall short. You'll have days when you don't meet your own expectations. The goal is not to never break a promise. It's to repair it quickly when you do. When you miss a commitment, acknowledge it honestly. Don't shame yourself or make excuses. Simply say, "I broke my word today, but I'll do better tomorrow." That honesty preserves trust, because it shows integrity even in imperfection. One of the most damaging habits people develop is overpromising. They say yes to everything, to others, to themselves, to unrealistic expectations. Every yes becomes another chance to fall short. The more promises you make, the easier they become to break. The solution is to simplify. Make fewer promises, but take them seriously. Say less, do more. Build a reputation with yourself for reliability. When your words are few but solid, your confidence grows naturally. Each day offers countless opportunities to rebuild self-trust. You don't need big achievements, you just need consistency. When you say you'll wake up early, and you do, that's trust. When you plan to journal for 5 minutes, and you write, that's trust. When you choose one healthy meal instead of mindless eating, that's trust. Over time, these moments accumulate. They send a clear message to your subconscious: I keep my word. And once your mind believes that again, everything changes. When you trust yourself, decision-making becomes easier. You no longer overthink every choice or fear making mistakes. You understand that even if things go wrong, you'll handle it. That sense of inner reliability calms your nervous system. You stop chasing external control because you've built internal steadiness. You become your own source of reassurance, not because you're certain of outcomes, but because you're certain of your ability to stay consistent. Many people rely on motivation to act, but motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes with emotion. Self-trust doesn't depend on feeling motivated. It depends on discipline. Discipline is doing what's necessary, even when you don't feel like it. It's honoring your word to yourself, even when comfort tempts you otherwise. Every time you act without waiting to feel inspired, you strengthen your inner resolve. You remind yourself that you are the kind of person who follows through, no matter how you feel. Self-trust also grows through self-compassion. You can't build confidence by attacking yourself. Shame doesn't create discipline, it creates paralysis. When you fail, be kind but accountable. Acknowledge the mistake, forgive yourself, and return to your commitment. Consistency comes from compassion, not cruelty. When you treat yourself with understanding, you're more likely to try again instead of giving up. Sometimes rebuilding trust means letting go of who you used to be. Maybe you've broken promises so many times that you no longer believe you can change. But the past is not evidence of the future. It's just information. Use it to learn, not to define yourself. Each day is a new chance to rebuild credibility with yourself. Start with something small. Prove to yourself you can follow through, and let that belief expand gradually. It's also important to keep your promises visible. Write them down, track them, celebrate small wins. Your mind needs evidence of progress to rebuild faith. Seeing proof of your consistency reminds you that change is happening, even if slowly. Over time, those small actions compound. What felt like weakness turns into reliability. What felt like self-doubt turns into self-trust. Rebuilding trust also means aligning your actions with your values. Many people make promises based on what others expect, rather than what feels authentic. They commit to goals they don't truly care about, so naturally, they fail to follow through. When your actions reflect your real priorities, discipline feels natural. You don't need willpower to do what genuinely matters to you. Alignment creates ease. Another overlooked part of rebuilding trust is learning to say no. When you say no to distractions, temptations, and things that don't serve your growth, you protect your integrity. You show yourself that your time and energy have value. Boundaries are an act of self-respect. They remind you that you are responsible for your peace. Every time you honor a boundary, you reinforce the message that your word matters. Small daily follow-throughs might not look impressive to others, but they are deeply transformative. Waking up and keeping your morning routine, finishing the task you said you'd complete, following your workout plan, speaking kindly to yourself when things go wrong. These small wins shape your inner identity. Over time, you begin to feel proud, not for being perfect, but for being reliable. That quiet pride becomes confidence, and confidence becomes peace. When you rebuild trust in yourself, you stop seeking validation from others. You no longer need constant reassurance, because you've built it internally. You know that even when things get hard, you can rely on yourself to show up. That trust makes you fearless. It allows you to take risks, to dream bigger, to face failure without losing hope. Because deep down, you know that no matter what happens, you'll keep going. Trust is not built in promises, it's built in repetition. The days you don't feel like showing up matter most. Those are the moments that define your relationship with yourself. Every time you push through resistance, you're telling your mind, I can count on me. And when that becomes true, peace follows naturally. You rebuild trust by living with integrity, even when no one is watching. It's easy to perform when others expect it, but real growth happens in private. The quiet moments when you choose to do what's right, even when no one will know, that's where strength is forged. You become your own witness, your own supporter, your own proof. Eventually, the small daily follow-throughs add up to something greater. Your actions start aligning effortlessly with your intentions. You stop fighting against yourself. Your words carry meaning again. You no longer need to make grand promises to feel hopeful. You trust the process because you've lived it. You've built a foundation of consistency that nothing external can shake. Rebuilding trust in yourself doesn't happen with inspiration. It happens with repetition. Each morning you rise and do what you said you would. You heal another piece of that fractured relationship with yourself. Each evening you reflect on what you completed. You strengthen your belief in who you are becoming. Over time, that belief turns into certainty, and certainty turns into peace. That's the real power of small daily follow-throughs. They rebuild the bridge between your intentions and your actions. They remind you that discipline isn't punishment, it's self-respect. They teach you that consistency is freedom. And once you rebuild that trust, you no longer need to convince yourself you're capable. You know you are because your life proves it every single day.
Chapter 9. Let silence teach you what overthinking never will. Silence is something most people fear, yet it's the very thing that could save their peace. In silence, the mind loses its constant audience,
and truth begins to surface. Most of us fill every moment with noise, music, scrolling, talking, planning, because silence confronts us with ourselves. It forces us to meet the thoughts we've been avoiding. But the strange thing is, the answers we're always chasing through endless thinking are often waiting quietly underneath all the noise. Silence doesn't demand effort, it requires presence, and presence is where real understanding begins. Overthinking is the mind's attempt to control what it can't accept. It spins in circles, replaying scenarios, creating predictions, building worries, and searching for certainty. It's exhausting because it never ends. It feeds on itself. The more you think, the more confused you become. You convince yourself that if you just analyze a little more, the right answer will appear. But overthinking doesn't bring clarity, it creates fog. The truth is that clarity isn't something you think into existence, it's something you allow to appear when the mind becomes still. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the absence of mental chaos. It's a state where thoughts can come and go without your interference. When you stop arguing with your mind, you begin to hear something deeper, your intuition, your inner knowing. That quiet voice never shouts, and that's why most people miss it. It speaks in feelings, in small nudges, in gentle realizations. You can't hear it through the noise of constant thought, you hear it when you create space to listen. The habit of overthinking is rooted in fear, fear of being wrong, fear of missing out, fear of losing control. The mind keeps running because it believes that thinking more equals solving more. But the mind often confuses motion with progress. You can spend hours analyzing a problem and still be stuck because thinking without awareness is just spinning. Silence breaks that cycle. It allows you to step outside your thoughts and see them clearly instead of being trapped inside them. When you sit in silence, the first thing you notice is how loud your mind actually is. The noise doesn't stop right away. Thoughts rush in, memories replay, emotions rise. You'll feel restless at first. That's normal. The mind resists stillness because it's not used to being observed. But if you stay with it, just watching, not fighting, the noise begins to settle. Like mud in water, clarity emerges naturally when you stop stirring it. You don't force silence, you fall into it by letting go. Silence teaches you to separate what is real from what is imagined. When you overthink, you're trapped in stories, what someone might think, what could go wrong, what you should have said. None of it exists right now, yet your body reacts as if it does. Silence brings you back to the present. It reminds you that most of what troubles you is happening only in your head. When you return to the moment, problems become smaller and solutions become clearer. You start to realize that silence is not empty, it's full of truth. It shows you patterns you couldn't see before, the way you react out of habit, the beliefs that drive your anxiety, the emotions you've been avoiding. Silence doesn't judge, it simply reveals. And when you see things clearly, change becomes easy. You stop fighting invisible battles because you understand where your energy truly belongs. In silence, you discover that peace is not something you earn, it's something that's always been there, hidden under layers of thought. When the mind quiets, peace rises on its own. It doesn't need to be created, it needs to be uncovered. This realization changes how you approach life. You stop searching for peace in external things because you know it's already inside you, waiting for you to stop drowning it with noise. Overthinking tries to solve life intellectually. But life isn't a problem to solve, it's an experience to feel. Silence brings you back into that experience. You begin to notice small things again. The sound of your breath, the warmth of sunlight, the rhythm of your heartbeat. These simple sensations pull you out of the mind and into the present. The present moment has no fear, no regret, no anxiety. It only has reality. And reality, when seen clearly, is rarely as overwhelming as the thoughts about it. Silence also teaches patience. Overthinking wants immediate answers. It's always trying to force timing to make things happen faster. But silence reminds you that clarity has its own rhythm. You can't rush understanding. When you wait quietly, insights arise naturally. Sometimes in moments you least expect. A calm mind sees what a restless mind misses. The solution you've been searching for might come not through thinking, but through simply being still long enough to recognize it. When you learn to sit with silence, you also learn emotional maturity. You stop reacting instantly to everything that happens. You begin to see that not every emotion needs a response, not every thought needs attention. Silence gives you the space to choose. Between stimulus and reaction, there is a pause, and that pause is where wisdom lives. Overthinking fills that pause with noise. Silence expands it. People often avoid silence because it feels uncomfortable. They associate it with loneliness or emptiness. But that discomfort is just unfamiliarity. When you start spending time in silence, you might feel restless or uneasy at first. That's just the detox of years of noise. The more time you spend in silence, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, you stop fearing it, you start craving it, because you realize it's the only place you can truly hear yourself. Silence teaches humility. It shows you that you don't need to have an opinion on everything. You don't need to always explain or defend yourself. You don't have to fill every gap with words. When you're comfortable in silence, you stop seeking validation through constant expression. You become okay with being misunderstood because you no longer depend on noise to prove your worth. You realize that truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to be lived. Overthinking keeps you stuck in the past or the future, while silence anchors you in the now. When you overthink, you live in reaction. When you embrace silence, you live in awareness. The difference between the two is the difference between stress and peace. Overthinking feeds worry, while silence feeds wisdom. The more time you spend in silence, the more your decisions begin to come from calm rather than fear. Silence can also heal. When you stop running from yourself, you give old wounds a chance to breathe. The emotions you've been avoiding rise to the surface, not to hurt you, but to be released. Healing doesn't happen through endless analysis, it happens through acceptance. Silence allows acceptance to happen naturally. You see pain not as a punishment, but as a part of being alive. You stop labeling emotions as good or bad. You just let them pass through you. That's how the heart heals, not through noise, but through stillness. One of the greatest lessons silence teaches is that not every question needs an answer. Some things are meant to unfold with time. The mind believes that knowing everything will bring peace, but sometimes not knowing is what keeps you open to growth. Silence trains you to be at peace with uncertainty. You learn to sit in the mystery without forcing solution. That patience develops faith, not blind faith, but trust in your own capacity to handle whatever comes. Overthinking tries to control life, while silence helps you cooperate with it. The more you listen, the more you understand that life has its own flow. You begin to trust timing instead of resisting it. You realize that not everything requires effort, some things simply require presence. You stop chasing clarity and start allowing it to find you. In silence, life starts speaking to you through signs, patterns, intuition and inner peace. Silence also deepens your connection with others. When you're not trapped in overthinking, you listen better. You hear what people mean, not just what they say. You stop rehearsing responses and start feeling empathy. You learn to sit with others' emotions without trying to fix them. That stillness builds genuine connection. People feel safe with someone who can listen without judgment or interruption. Silence becomes not just a tool for self-growth, but a bridge for human understanding. Overthinking drains your energy because it creates endless inner conflict. You argue with yourself, question every decision, relive every mistake. Silence ends that war. It doesn't solve every problem, but it ends the noise around it. From that peace, your energy returns. You think more clearly, move more deliberately, and act with purpose. Silence simplifies what overthinking complicates. When you start practicing silence regularly, whether through meditation, quiet reflection, or simply pausing throughout the day, you begin to notice a shift. The space between thoughts grows wide. You start seeing thoughts as temporary clouds instead of absolute truth. You realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness observing them. That understanding brings deep freedom. You stop being controlled by every passing worry and start living from a deeper stillness. Silence also reveals how much unnecessary noise you allow into your life. Arguments, gossip, distractions, meaningless stimulation. When you start valuing silence, you naturally start simplifying. You begin protecting your peace by being selective about what you consume, what you say, and who you spend time with. You realize that peace is not something you find, it's something you protect. Sometimes, silence shows you what overthinking hides. Your intuition. Logic has its place, but intuition is your deeper intelligence. It doesn't come from reasoning. It comes from alignment. When you quiet the mind long enough, intuition becomes clear. It's that calm inner knowing that says, this feels right, or something's off. The more you practice silence, the louder that inner wisdom becomes. Overthinking creates confusion. Intuition brings certainty without words. In silence, you rediscover simplicity. You stop needing to overcomplicate everything. You start seeing life as it is, imperfect, but manageable, unpredictable but meaningful. Overthinking looks for perfection. Silence accepts reality. That acceptance creates peace. You no longer need every detail to make sense before you move forward. You just take the next right step, trusting that clarity will come as you go. The most important lesson silence teaches is self-trust. When you can sit quietly with yourself and feel at ease, you know you've built real peace. You're no longer afraid of your thoughts, because you know how to observe them. You're no longer anxious about uncertainty, because you know how to stay centered. You stop relying on external validation, because your calm comes from within. Silence doesn't make life easier, it makes it clearer. It doesn't remove problems, it removes confusion. It doesn't promise happiness, it brings understanding. And from understanding comes freedom, the kind that overthinking will never deliver. When you finally allow silence to become your teacher, you stop chasing answers and start experiencing truth. You realize that not every problem needs fixing, not every emotion needs naming, and not every thought deserves attention. You begin to live with awareness instead of anxiety, with presence instead of projection, with peace instead of noise. That's the quiet wisdom of silence. It asks for nothing but your attention, and in return it gives you everything overthinking has taken. Clarity, calm, and the simple joy of being fully here, right now in peace.
Chapter 10. Live each moment with acceptance instead of constant control. Life rarely unfolds exactly as we plan it. We set goals, create routines, and build expectations about how things should go. But the truth is, control is an illusion. We try to manage every detail, but life has its own rhythm, and it doesn't always match ours. The need to control everything is the root of much of our stress. We think that if we can just make things perfect, we'll finally feel safe. Yet the opposite happens. The more we try to control, the more anxious we become. Real peace doesn't come from controlling life. It comes from accepting it as it is, moment by moment. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's not giving up. It's strength. The quiet kind that doesn't need to fight with reality to feel at peace. When you accept life, you stop wasting energy on what you can't change. You stop trying to force outcomes, fix everyone's behavior, and predict the future. Acceptance doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care wisely. You do what you can with what's in your hands, and let go of what isn't.
Most people live in constant tension because they're trying to control things beyond their reach. They want people to act a certain way, circumstances to align perfectly, timing to match their plans, and when life doesn't cooperate, frustration takes over. But peace begins the moment you stop demanding that life obey your preferences. The more you fight reality, the more it hurts. Acceptance is not agreement, it's alignment with truth. When you stop arguing with what is, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. There's a simple truth that many overlook. Control is exhausting. It drains your mind, your emotions, your energy. You can spend days worrying about things that never happen. You can replay old conversations, rewrite them in your mind, and still not change a thing. You can plan every detail of your future, but you can't guarantee a single outcome. Control gives the illusion of safety, but it often creates chaos inside. Acceptance, on the other hand, gives you calm even when nothing is certain. Living with acceptance doesn't mean you stop setting goals or making plans. It means you hold them lightly. You take action without becoming attached to how things turn out. You give your best effort, and then you let go. Control says, "This must happen my way." Acceptance says, "I'll give my best, and whatever happens, I'll handle it." That shift changes everything. You stop being enslaved by results and start finding peace in process. People who live in constant control rarely enjoy the present. Their minds are always in the future. What needs fixing? What could go wrong? What comes next? The irony is that the more they try to secure happiness, the more it slips away. Happiness only exists now in this moment. When you live with acceptance, you return to the present. You notice small details, the taste of your coffee, the sound of the wind, the warmth of sunlight. These ordinary moments hold quiet joy, but you can only experience them when you stop controlling and start noticing. Control comes from fear. We fear loss, failure, rejection, uncertainty. So we try to manage everything to prevent those outcomes. But fear-based control doesn't protect us, it isolates us. It makes us rigid, tense, and reactive. Acceptance dissolves fear. It reminds you that you can handle whatever comes. When you trust your ability to adapt, you no longer need to control every possibility. That trust creates freedom, the kind that allows you to move through life without clinging. Acceptance doesn't mean you approve of everything. It means you acknowledge reality before deciding how to act. When something painful happens, you don't deny it or sugarcoat it. You say, "This is how it is right now." That honesty gives you clarity. From clarity, you can make better choices. Denial keeps you trapped in frustration. Acceptance opens the door to wisdom. You can't change what you don't accept. The moment you face reality directly, you start to regain power. When you live with acceptance, you stop taking everything personally. You understand that people act based on their own stories, not yours. Their words, their moods, their decisions. They reflect their state of mind, not your worth. Control tries to change people. Acceptance allows them to be who they are, while you decide how to engage. That saves relationships, because it replaces judgment with understanding. You stop trying to fix others, and focus instead on your own peace. Control thrives on what-ifs. What if it doesn't work out? What if they leave? What if I fail? Acceptance replaces what if with even if. Even if it doesn't go as planned, I'll adjust. Even if things change, I'll find my balance. Even if I fall, I'll rise again. That mindset builds resilience. Life stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a journey. You stop bracing for disaster and start flowing with reality. There's great power in learning to say, "This moment is enough." That simple statement is acceptance in action. You don't wait for perfect conditions to feel content. You stop chasing the next thing that will finally make you happy. You realize peace is not in the next achievement or relationship. It's in your ability to be fully present with what is happening now. The more you practice this, the more life feels spacious, grounded and calm. Control also limits creativity. When you need everything to go a certain way, you close yourself off to new possibilities. Acceptance opens doors you didn't even know existed. You start seeing opportunities where you used to see problems. You stop labeling things as good or bad and start asking, what can this teach me? That shift from resistance to curiosity transforms your mindset. You become more flexible, adaptable, and free to evolve. Acceptance also changes how you deal with pain. When you resist pain, you multiply it. You create a second layer of suffering, the struggle against what's already here. When you accept pain, you allow it to move through you. You face it with courage instead of denial. You learn that pain isn't permanent. It's a passing experience. Control tries to avoid pain at all costs. Acceptance says, I can handle this. And with that belief, pain loses its ability to dominate you. One of the biggest lessons in acceptance is understanding that everything has its season. People come and go. Success rises and falls. Emotions shift like weather. Trying to hold on to anything forever only creates tension. Acceptance allows you to appreciate things while they last and release them gracefully when they end. You begin to live with gratitude instead of attachment. You stop clinging to what's fading and start welcoming what's arrived. Living each moment with acceptance also means giving up the idea that life owes you certainty. You stop demanding guarantees before taking steps forward. You understand that the unknown is not an enemy. It's the natural state of life. When you make peace with uncertainty, you stop needing control. You start trusting the unfolding. Each moment becomes less about managing outcomes and more about experiencing what's real right now. Acceptance and action can coexist. Acceptance doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting from peace instead of panic. You still work hard, set goals and make changes, but without desperation. You no longer chase outcomes with anxiety. You move toward them with calm determination. The difference is in the energy. Control says, I must fix this now. Acceptance says, I'll give my best effort and let time do its part. That kind of patience is what builds long-term success and lasting peace. When you stop trying to control life, you rediscover trust. You begin to trust timing. You start to trust yourself. You realize that things tend to work out when you stop forcing them. You see that the world doesn't fall apart when you loosen your grip. It actually flows more smoothly. Life responds better to cooperation than to control. The moment you relax your need to dominate everything, you find that events often align naturally. Control thrives in the mind, but acceptance lives in the body. You can feel the difference physically. When you're in control mode, your body tenses, your shoulders tighten, your breathing shortens, your jaw clenches. When you shift to acceptance, your body softens, you breathe deeper, your heart rate steadies, the mind quiets because it no longer feels threatened. Acceptance heals not only the mind, but also the body that carries its tension. The more you live in acceptance, the more grateful you become. Gratitude and control can't coexist. Control says, this isn't enough. Gratitude says, this is meaningful right now. Acceptance teaches you to find beauty, even in imperfection. You stop waiting for everything to be ideal before you appreciate it. You realize that small joys, the laughter of someone you love, a quiet evening, the comfort of your own company, are enough. Acceptance also gives you freedom from regret. When you accept that you did the best you could with what you knew then, you stop punishing yourself for the past. You stop replaying mistakes as if you could change them. You understand that every decision, even the wrong ones, contributed to who you are now. Control tries to rewrite the past. Acceptance learns from it and moves forward. The peace that comes from acceptance isn't loud or dramatic. It's gentle but steady. It's the kind of calm that stays even when things go wrong. It's knowing that you don't have to fix everything to feel okay. You can breathe deeply, respond wisely, and trust that life is unfolding as it should. That doesn't mean everything will be easy. It means you'll have the strength to stay balanced through it. Living with acceptance doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful in a new way. You no longer waste energy on resistance. You stop fighting battles that don't matter. You save your strength for what truly needs your attention. That clarity allows you to act with focus instead of frenzy. You become calm in the storm, not because the storm stopped, but because you stopped believing you needed to control the wind. In time, acceptance becomes your natural way of living. You start meeting life with openness instead of judgment. You learn to say, "This is here, and I will meet it fully." You begin to trust that every experience, pleasant or painful, has something to teach you. Control seeks comfort. Acceptance seeks truth, and truth always leads to freedom. When you live each moment with acceptance, you stop measuring life by outcomes and start measuring it by presence. You no longer ask, "How can I make this perfect?" but "How can I be fully here?" That awareness transforms everything. Your relationships, your work, your inner peace. You start living instead of managing, experiencing instead of expecting, breathing instead of controlling. That's the power of acceptance. It turns ordinary moments into peace, chaos into clarity, and struggle into understanding. The world doesn't have to change for you to feel free. You just have to stop demanding that it be anything other than what it is. Control tries to protect you from life. Acceptance allows you to live, and in that space between control and surrender, you discover the calm, steady, and unshakable peace that was waiting for you all along.